Do you know why people break up?
Yeah, cheating.
Guilt. But if you make the bad thing okay, then there's no guilt.
Or maybe you just stop doing the bad thing.
Hello, listeners. There is a moment in modern relationships that almost never looks dramatic from the outside. No shouting, no betrayal scene, no final goodbye. Just a slow exhaustion that comes from being the one who always shows up first. When you like someone, when you are with someone, you don't start with demands, you start with hope. You expect almost innocently that interest will mirror interest, that plans will be mutual, that effort will flow both ways. At first, it feels natural to text first, to plan, to initiate. Love often begins asymmetrically. That's not the problem. The problem begins when asymmetry becomes routine. You text again, you plan again, you reassure again, and slowly you begin to notice something unsettling. If you stop, nothing moves. This is where expectation turns into fatigue. You start asking questions, not aggressively, not dramatically, but honestly. Why is it always me? Why don't you text first? Why don't you make plans? These questions are not accusations, they are requests for emotional availability. But here's the uncomfortable truth: many people don't hear them that way. What they feel instead is guilt, and guilt is a dangerous emotion in intimacy. In many cases, especially with men conditioned to equate emotional availability with loss of freedom, guilt doesn't lead to growth, it leads to distance. Subconsciously, the person who is being asked to show up begins to associate the other with pressure, not because the request is unreasonable, but because it exposes their absence. So, instead of meeting the expectation, they retreat. Instead of changing behavior, they reduce contact. Instead of choosing honesty, they choose silence. The irony is brutal. The person asking for closeness is framed as too much, while the person withholding effort is framed as overwhelmed. This dynamic shows up painfully well in movies like Splitsville. What's crucial in Splitsville and what often gets misunderstood is not just the conflict between effort and neglect, but the fear that sits underneath the woman's choices. Her philosophy doesn't come from weakness, it comes from insecurity rooted in attachment. She believes quietly, rationally, almost logically that if she keeps pointing out what's missing, the relationship itself might disappear. That if she keeps saying, "Why don't you text? Why don't you plan? Why don't you show up emotionally?" the man will feel guilt. And guilt, she fears, will not make him change, it will make him leave. So she adapts. She learns a coping philosophy. If the bad thing becomes okay, then it stops being a threat. If he doesn't text, make it okay. If he doesn't plan, make it okay. If he isn't emotionally available, make it okay. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because naming the hurt feels riskier than absorbing it. This is the survival logic of many relationships: reduce friction to reduce abandonment. And in the beginning, it works. There's peace, there's continuity, there's no confrontation. The relationship survives, but survival is not the same as living. That's where the counter argument in Splitsville cuts deep. The hero doesn't dismiss her fear, he exposes its cost. He says, in essence, if someone is doing a bad thing, the solution is not to make it okay. The solution is to stop the bad thing. Because when you normalize neglect, you're not removing the problem, you're internalizing it. You shift the burden from "you should change" to "I should adjust," and that adjustment slowly hollows you out. What begins as emotional intelligence turns into emotional self erasure. What begins as patience turns into quiet resentment. What begins as love turns into endurance. The tragedy is that this philosophy often feels mature. It sounds evolved, it looks calm, no fights, no drama, no guilt. But beneath that calm is a relationship that no longer requires the other person to grow. And that's the line the film draws so clearly. A relationship that survives by shrinking one person is not a relationship that deserves longevity. Yes, at first, making the bad thing okay can feel like wisdom, but over time, it becomes a refusal to honor your own needs. Real relationships aren't built on who can tolerate more discomfort. They are built on who is willing to become better because of discomfort. If someone distances themselves when you ask for emotional presence, that distance was already there. You didn't create it, you revealed it. And choosing to stop making bad things okay isn't cruelty, it's honesty. Because love isn't about avoiding guilt, it's about choosing responsibility. Anything else may survive, but it won't live.